Speaking of, this is a good segue into the first topic I bring to the podcast tonight. Because we're on the Catholic topic. Well, the Attorney General released a report recently talking about a massive clergy cover-up in Illinois, Chicago area, mostly is from what I'm seeing.
In our backyard.
But there's been a huge clergy SA cover-up going on for 70 years.
Duh.
Yeah, well, we heard of the big one in Boston, okay? That's when, like, this really first started coming to light, was when all of that in Boston was going on. Well, the Attorney General, like, it was doing an investigation, and they finally released a report showing this information.
Yeah.
And it says...
Isn't it sad we live in a world where that's not surprising? Like, any of the three... I have three professions, three careers that are the red flag careers. Like so many of them are just off their rocker. And that's priests, dentists, and nurses. Anything with those three careers, those three types of people, I don't think I could be surprised.
No, I've heard a lot of crazy things.
It's those three, I'm telling you.
And I have a true crime tonight about a nurse.
I'm sure you do. It happens all the time.
Okay, so this was over a 70-year period. I think they're going from like 1950 until now. Uh-huh. But it details the names and... the names of all the priests, but it's 451 Catholic priests as well as religious brothers who abused at least 1,997 children across Illinois.
So 2,000.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that is hard to hear, man. That's hard to hear. Let's see, how many a year is that? So
the report says the various Catholic dioceses in the state had only listed 103 substantial abuse of priests on their websites.
So that's 20. So that's 2 a month. Yeah, 2 a month for 70 years.
Abuse cases.
Yep.
So They found 451 when the Catholic Church...
I'm sorry, 3 a month.
The diocese over the state or whatever, like however they do this, I don't know how they break their systems down, but the diocese is like, I'm guessing like a higher up. On their website, they only listed 103.
103 priests?
Yes, because on their website, they have to list the priests that have...
I mean, who holds them accountable? They're their own country.
Well, that's their, like, accountability is, like, these priests have been found to do things to kids. They only listed 103 when there's actually, like, 451.
That's so shady. You're better off not listing any, because by doing that, you're literally proving the favoritism in the Catholic Church. You're literally proving that there's the in crowd in your church that as long as you rub enough elbows and suck enough D's, you're not going to get listed on here like we got your back, bro. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
It is crazy. And it makes you really wonder, like, why is this happening?
Because the Catholic Church has so much money and land ownership. They're one of the richest corporations in the world that I just don't think they care. I don't.
It's so sad. I don't think they care either, to be honest. The Archdiocese of Chicago put out a statement, and I guess they're upset that they didn't let them do their own internal investigation, because they're
the Chicago Archdiocese is upset.
It kind of sounded like, from what I saw on a news thing I watched, he was like, we have our own internal process with outside people that help us, identify these people, like third parties. But none of them are actually from outside the church. Like, it sounds like they're like a little butthurt that the Attorney General looked into them.
Oh
and of course you are. Because it looks terrible. Because you know about it. If there's that many,
shady stuff,
you are. That means you yourself are probably shady, and you're probably doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's gnarly.
It's went on for so long.
Yeah, and like, how many times does this have to happen before we say it's enough and we investigate the entire Catholic Church? Everybody, all of them, in all countries that we're allowed to be in. Like, why is it such an awful thing with how many kids on a monthly basis get abused and molested by these people? Can we not, tag their phones and listen to what they're looking at, what they're talking about, and all these things? I just don't get it. This is one of the most serious enemies on the face of the earth for children and women and people alike, God.
I have the report here. It's 696 pages.
Wow.
So if you want to look into it, this was 5-year-long investigation.
Jeez.
So it's not like they just looked into it for like a few months and were like, oh yeah, we think it's this. Like, they went deep. And this is a long report. And it includes victim accounts of their abuse. Hundreds, apparently, is what this news report says. There's no way I could have went through all of this. Not even in a week. I couldn't have read all this. I don't read that fast, and I'm too busy. But it is interesting, and I have read a little bit of it. And
did they say what happened to these priests?
No.
They didn't?
This just came out. So here, the 6 dioceses, so it focuses on Belleville, Joliet, Peoria, Rockford, and Springfield and Chicago.
Because which is essentially all the biggest cities.
It is. It is the biggest cities.
Yeah, in Illinois. But, so the Catholic Church has notoriously covered up these things in a way where they slowed any of the news stories from coming out. They stopped people from talking about it on social media. They probably have their own internet their own internet team that helps, reduce any of these things being seen. And then they take the priests that did all the wrongdoing and they will bring them back to the Vatican and replace them somewhere else in the world.
That's horrible. That's disgusting. Like, they should never be allowed to be a priest around children again.
Let's look up what the Vatican Church does when...
So, some of the children, I guess, that were... That they talked to. It says Childers highlighted. What is Childers? Oh, I think that might be a last name. Anyway, it says this person highlighted a number of areas in which monitoring of accused clerics fell short. So in this current honor system, the accused priest abusers are essentially self-monitored. They may choose whether or not to be in treatment, choose the type of treatment, choose the treatment provider, choose when, where, and with whom they travel, choose where they work, and choose what to report on their daily logs. They may be required to reside at particular sites, but even there they have unrestricted movement with no curfew restrictions. This current honor system of monitoring allows the accused priest abusers to remain relatively anonymous. SA offenders strive for and thrive on anonymity. It is anonymity that allows them to offend against many victims and offend over very long periods of time.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing here is it said that, I'm looking up exactly what it means, but it says that the Vatican reveals how many priests they defrocked for SA in 2004. So this is a very old article here, like almost 20 years old. But so defrocked is deprive. I'm assuming essentially it means they take away their collar. They remove them from their position of power. That's not what happens to a priest when they're defrocked. It does not mean that the priest is no longer a priest. Instead, it means that he can no longer conduct mass.
So he has everything else, but he just can't do mass.
Essentially, he can't lead a church, but you know how many other positions there are?
Oh, a ton.
He can't conduct mass, hear confessions, or administer sacraments. But everything else, and he's still a priest. Oh my gosh, dude.
That's crazy. So he's still taken care of in every way by the church.
Yes, he's still a priest.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
Well, I think that's what they're saying too, is they send these priests somewhere else, but these priests still have full autonomy and unrestricted movement. They can live normally. They just have to do it somewhere else. Is exactly what I just read said.
That's insanity.
I'm on page 71 of the report, and this is one of the first narratives. This is narratives regarding Chicago clerics substantiated as abusers. There's Robert Boyley, and it talks about how in the 1980s, Shanice was a 5th grader in Chicago's Woodland neighborhood, and the details of the abuse. And it's super sad.
Yeah, I don't
Talking
like
about
reading the details.
Remembering
of that stuff.
the ruffles of her socks that day, and like it's horrible. It's horrible. Like, because she was looking down. Like,
sounds like an obsession. That's
it's
just
really,
weird.
really sad. Well, when you're in an abuse situation, especially I would assume as a child, there's certain little details that could stick in your brain that you can't get out of your head. Yeah. But anyway, I was kind of curious thinking about this, like, and we've talked about it. We've debated it a lot, like what makes priests more inclined for some reason, because this is like truly a huge issue. Like, this is a reoccurring major issue that's been going on for a very long time in the Catholic Church. And I even reading on it, like, because I looked up, why do priests do this to kids?
It's because it's a position of power, and they expect them not to have relationships.
And it's totally that. And they talked about access. So apparently, because they want to say like homosexual, like there's been a lot of things about how homosexual priests, it's mostly little boys and they're all homosexuals, and homosexual priests are more likely to offend.
I don't believe that.
Well, there were studies and research done showing that's not true. It's about who they have more access to.
I know.
That's it.
I know, because
once there was more children around, those numbers went up.
I know. Part of the reason why boys get selected so much is because when it's a male priest understands and connects with a boy better than they do a girl. Because you got to remember, most of these priests have no experience with women, not in-depth good experience with the opposite gender, right? So if they're going to do something criminal that they know is criminal, they're going to do it with somebody that they have somewhat more of a connection to. They are a man, so they're going to feel automatically closer to another boy in the same way that other men are around other men. Like, it's just kind of how it is. But one thing to remember, and I don't remember the exact statistic when I say this, but I'm pretty sure I'm close to it, but actual pedos are really rare. So, like, 80% of molestations or SAs that happen is the molesting by power. So there's exterior causes that create somebody like a priest who has taken any sexual contact, human contact out of their life. It's about the power, not that they're literally attracted to a prepubescent child. And most molestations and SAs are that. Very few of them are actual, legit pedos where they have only an attraction to a prepubescent child. So yeah, that totally makes sense that it'll be a boy or a girl, like that, because that's not what's important. It's the fact that they're put into a position of power. They have been starved, literally starved. One of the most important things taken away from them, I would argue that it's up there as important as air and food. Sex and human contact has been taken away from them. They're going to go crazy, dude. They're going to lose it. We're putting them in a position to fail over and over and over every time. And I guarantee you that these molestations haven't slowed down in the Catholic Church. I don't think they've sped up, but I don't think they've slowed down.
It makes me wonder. So I looked up like what they estimate like pedophilia is in like the population, and it says like there's some that says 1 to 5 and some that says 4 to 5% of males. They don't even give statistics on women because I guess it's insignificant.
Are you sure you're looking up a legitimate pedo? Because socially,
National Institute of Health, they're talking...
Socially, we call people pedos that do pedophilic things, but that's not the dictionary version of a pedo. Okay.
Because they talk about the disparities, like women, when they get in trouble for this stuff, it's not actual pedophilia technically, because it's like not a prepubescent child. A lot of times it's normally like a teenager.
Yeah, most women are post-puberty, but very young. Yeah. Most of the time.
It makes me wonder,
But not mine. I mean, I was prepubescent, and it was a woman.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be those cases, like...
Well, I mean, it happens to anybody. It literally happens to anybody. So, and I think there's a lot more men out there that don't come out and get honest with it, because, funny enough, I hooked up with an adult when I was in junior high, too, so it happened prepubescent and post. But, at that time, obviously, I thought I was consenting, like every person that happens to. But yeah, I just think it's important to people to know that it can happen to anybody, and it's equally hard for anybody to come out with it. And this idea that like, oh, he's a wussy, he shouldn't be complaining. He hooked up with a girl, whatever. Like, that's the stupidest thing ever. That is one of the stupidest things in the world, to bring back this, like, oh, you're weak, you're a pansy, you're a wuss, you know what I mean? For a boy coming out and saying, hey, I got taken advantage of by a woman. You know?
I feel like society used to think almost like that boys couldn't be taken advantage of.
Well, they're trying to go back to that in our society.
It's so dumb.
It's so ridiculous.
But it makes me wonder if this... Okay, so a lot of the cases that have come out are from like 40, 50 years ago, like a lot of cases were from a long time ago, and they didn't understand abuse very much back then, so they would put them back in their positions, and then they would go on to do this again and again and again and again until now. But it makes me wonder if maybe this goes way back further than we even realize. And I think it does, from some evidence I've seen of people who were abused as children by priests becoming priests and abusing children. Like, I wonder... I think this is a cycle of abuse within the Catholic faith that started a long time ago.
Maybe. I'm not...
Because I saw something of...
Sure, but that's just hard to connect, because
it's my speculations.
That's not a for sure thing. There are a lot of victims that, yes, become offenders, but not all of them. And I believe it is less than half, but it's close to half. So essentially you could say half of victims become offenders.
No way. It's that high?
It's wow. Very high. It is very, very, very high. And I don't know. I just don't see this evolution of only that. I think that the position itself breeds pedophilic actions. Not pedophiles, but breeds the pedophilic action, the power control, because you're seen as almost like a father figure in that position. People come to you in need. That gives you a certain power that a lot of people out there don't feel. And it's very easy for you to take advantage of that power because you're looked at in a way that the people you're over trust you with everything. They literally come to you for what they believe is eternal life. Like, that is so much power. They're looking to you to make sure that your soul is safe for eternity. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
That power, that position, in my opinion, that's dangerous.
Yeah, it's too much. That's what I don't like about the Catholic religion when it comes to Christianity, because it seems so anti-Christianity because they're making them like themselves like God, like they have the ultimate power, and they, oh my gosh, like back in the day, in the time of the Crusades and after, they would make everybody be like starving and poor just to give them like their last sack of potatoes or their last farm animal. Like, give us the last of everything and God will take care of you.
It's insane. It is so insane.
They've always taken advantage of people from what I've seen from the beginning of time.
Persecutions on everybody who didn't, bend their back into a noodle for them.
Yep. But I just, I don't know. I didn't actually get to watch the church's response to it. But maybe we could watch it on stream because it's kind of hard to watch those on the podcast.
Yeah. Until we get a screen up here. Hopefully we do. That'll be awesome to be able to.
Yeah. That will be nice. But I just thought this was horrific, obviously, but
I agree.
Important.
Yeah, I agree.
And I hadn't heard it talked about a lot. I just randomly came across it, and it's like literally right here by us. Like, I've lived in a couple of these cities, so it's kind of wild. But I really hope that all of the victims of this literal atrocity are somewhere where they're doing good in life, and can move past it. Because it sounds like, they talk to so many of them, and a lot of them, like, have had a lot of struggles in life because of it. And, I just hope they're doing better now, and they have some kind of closure with this coming out. Because a lot of them were very involved in the investigation and giving their stories and stuff, so,
Yeah.